God got you in this church for a reason. If you join that church, join this church, and you know, it's always an honor to share your story, because you know, us as humans, we get weak sometimes, and sometimes we can fall back on other people's testimony of their strength. Did you break that too, Josie?
No, I did not.
Golly.
Why did he use that one?
Yeah, I didn't use that. That just sound like my kids. It was broke when I found it. Uh-huh.
Oh my God, bro.
Yeah.
Rosie, you didn't need that.
Golly.
Hey,
Because
bro.
you broke it till you moved it.
Well, I can say if you do it good, so.
You broke it.
Oh,
Oh my
oh,
God.
no. It's like me, it's falling apart. Yeah, every morning I wake up and something else hurts. You know, my neck's been hurting here lately.
You get
And,
better the older you get.
Well, I think what it is my wife's been stealing my pillow at night. I wake up, my head flat on the bed. I look over, she's been throwing hers to the floor and all snubbing up in mine. So I got to get hers out of the floor to use it. Yeah. She used to just keep scooching me over the side of the bed, and she used this method. I always like on her knees like this, and she just keep scooching. And I'd wake up, I'd be hanging one leg and one arm off the bed. So I just get up, walk around and lay on her side of the bed. Hey, she was, you know, I was sleeping good. Yeah. But, yeah, that's what I'm going to touch on today is about marriage. Because in 1 Samuel chapter 25, you can turn there, still reading about King David still. And this is about one thing I like about this chapter is I don't mention Saul very much. It does mean. But it's also a sad chapter too, especially the first 3 words. And I say that because this is what the book's named after, is Samuel. And this is where Samuel, you read the first 3 words, it says Samuel dies. Now, the thing about it is, when you start reading the Bible and really doing Bible studies on these people, you really get emotionally attached to them, like you really knew them. And Samuel, here he dies to go be with the Lord, which is a good thing. I don't want to be emotional. But it's just death's always, you know. But, yeah, Samuel's written up to chapter 25, and then it still has 2 Samuel, and he's not even in it. But here, verse 1, now Samuel died, and all of Israel assembled and mourned for him, and they buried him at his home in Ramah. Now, I'm going to have to jump through some of this because it's kind of a long read. But David went to visit a man, a certain man there who had property there at Carmel, was very wealthy. He had 1,000 goats and 3,000 sheep, which he was shearing in Carmel. His name was Nabal, and his wife was Abigail. She was intriguingly beautiful, and some verses say she had was a rare beauty. And it says it's only about 3 women in the Bible, and one of those was Ruth and Rachel. And now it says this about Abigail, so I guess that she was one of the top 3 prettiest women in the Bible. And but her husband, his personality, like I say, I'm not going to read a lot of it. I want you to go back and read it. But her husband, is going to find out, is not a very good person. And so anyway, it says, yeah, she's beautiful. And while David was in the desert, he heard that Nabal was shearing sheep. So he sent 10 young men, said, go to Nabal at Carmel and greet him and say to him, long life to you. And that shalom is what they were saying back then, shalom. Good health to you and your household, and good health to all of yours. Now I hear it's sheep shearing time. When the shepherds were with us, we did not mistreat them, and the whole time we were there at Carmel, nothing of theirs was missing. And this is the thing you got to realize is David had an army of 600 people out there, and at this time, these shepherds went out there, and they didn't have nothing to defend themselves with those sling and their stick and everything else. And so people could ride up there and easily ride off with their sheep and everything else, because they didn't have horses. So people could ride a horse up there and herd off some of the sheep before he could even get over there. But David, with his army of 600, was out there. He was protecting this guy's stuff. And apparently this guy wasn't hurt because he got 1,000 goats and 3,000 sheep. If you had 100 sheep, you were considered rich back then. So this guy was really wealthy. Now it says, nothing was missing. Ask your own servants, and they will tell you. Therefore, be favorable towards my young men, since we have came at a feast time. Please give your servants and your son David whatever you can find for them. And this ain't making a list like, hey, dude, you owe us 10%, you owe us 20%, you know, we ought to do. He's saying, can you give us something? Because we've been protecting your stuff. This entire, you know, fall or winter or however season it was, you know, we left your herds protected. Nobody bothered them. Because what fool's going to ride up there and try to steal a couple of sheep with an army of 600 there that can hunt you down and kill you? And now this is where the intelligence of this guy comes out. When David's men arrived and gave Gabal this message, David's name, they waited. Gabal answered David's servant, "Who is David? Who is the son of Jesse?" Okay. Now at this time, he knew who David was. Okay, I'm just going to throw somebody out there. Who knows Hunter Biden? I mean, everybody's heard of Hunter Biden, right? We don't know him personally, but we know that he's the president's son. Okay. Now, he's saying, who is this, you know? And he's just being arrogant is what he's being. And to go on and show this, he said, many servants are breaking away from their masters these days. Why should I take my bread and water in the meal I have slaughtered for my shears and give it to men coming from who knows where? What does it sound like? I don't always like trying to bash people, but you know, growing up, I remember, you know, my stepdad, he used a lot of this my stuff, you know, and this is my money, this is my stuff, this is my. And he was a very selfish individual. And this is what this guy sounds like to me, a very selfish individual. Because when it comes down to time to ask people to give you something, like, why should I give you this? This is mine. You know, I shouldn't share this. This is mine. Even though I have all this, it's still mine. Greed. Man's heart's full of greed. Who does he sound like? He sounds like Saul now, right?
Yeah.
Because that's what Saul was doing. Saul had everything, but one thing he didn't have was David's life, and that's what he's pursuing. He's obsessed with is David's life, and that's what this guy's doing. He's obsessed with his own possessions. And when I read on, I'll tell you what God does with people like this. David's men turned and went back. When they arrived, they reported every word. And David said to his men, now keep in mind, David's a powerful warrior. I mean, he killed Goliath. Goliath, dude. And he comes to his men, and they tell him this, and David's like, oh, you know what? He says, put your swords on, brothers. We're going hunting. He said, so the men put their swords on, and David put his on. About 400 men went up with David, while 200 stayed with the supplies. One of the servants told Nabal's wife, Abigail, David sent messengers from the desert to give our master his greetings, but he hurled insults at them. Yet these men were very good to us. They did not mistreat us, and the whole time we were out in the field near and nothing was missing. And Abigail, she does something that most men don't do, and that's think. Men, you know, we act on reaction, and women think stuff out. Because now Bill, he done said what he gonna do. You know, he ain't getting nothing of mine. And Abigail's like, man, this guy done got 400 soldiers coming down here fixing to, you know, start chopping some heads off. It says, night and day, we were all walled around, all of us at the time we were herding our sheep near them. Now think it over and see what you can do, because disaster is hanging over our master, the whole household. He is such a wicked man that no one can talk to him. Abigail lost no time. She took 200 loaves of bread, 200 skins of wine, 5 dressed sheep, 5 stacks of roasted grain, 100 cakes of raisin, 200 cakes of pressed figs, and loaded them on the donkeys. It says jump down to 20. And as she came riding her donkey into the mountain ravine, there was David and his men descending towards her, and she met them. David just said, it's been useless, all the watching over the fellow's property in the desert, said nothing, and so that nothing of his was missing. He paid me back with evil for good. May God deal with David, be ever so severely be by morning. I leave alone only one male of him to belong to him. So he's going to kill everybody but one male. When Abigail saw David, she quickly got off her donkey and bowed down before David with her face to the ground. She fell at his feet and said, my Lord, let the blame be on me alone. Please let your servant speak to you. Hear what your servant has to say. Now, what Abigail realizes here is to me, it's one of the biggest problems in society nowadays that we have. Because Abigail knows that David is a king. She knows that David's a king. Now, what society has nowadays is this woman realizes his authority. He's just a man, but he has what? Power over her. And that's what a lot of us have problems with, is when somebody has power over us. When a cop gets behind you and turns his lights on, guess what you have to do? You have to pull over. Now, you can't act a fool and try to run. And all the videos I saw never really worked out for people like that. You know, you just prolong your trip to jail, and you prolong your time in jail, because you're going to spend a lot more time when you decide to run. And it's the same way, too, that we've raised our children to now, where they don't even respect their teachers. They go to school, they talk back to their teachers, they talk back to elders, they talk, you know what? I know me and Russell growing up, we talk back to our granny, guess what we got? We got 5 across the face. Bam! I don't care what you think. What you think, you keep it in your head, okay? And that was when children are to be seen and what? Not heard. And see, this generation right here, she realizes that David has authority over them. Her husband already acted a fool and turned him down and said, you know what? I ain't giving you nothing. You might be a king, but you ain't my king. And it don't work that way. When your king tells you something, it's like telling the IRS, I'm not going to pay you taxes. Well, how's that work out for you? Just ask my boy there. He decided to went with some money at the casino and didn't want to pay taxes on it. Guess what? Mr. IRS caught up with him. Ask him what happened to his tax return last year. Oh, see, that's the thing. We don't respect people, but that's the thing. God has put authority over man. That's like in the household, the man has authority over what? The woman. Again, a lot of people don't want to hear that one. You know, but that's what God says. But then police are over man. A sheriff's over the police department or captain, whatever it is. Then you got the mayor over him. There's somebody always over you. And even if you're a king, who's over you? God. So somebody's always over you. You got to respect their authority. Like Eric Cartman said, respect my authority. You know? And that's what And the quickest way Abigail saw this, because if she would have sent us a messenger with this stuff, guess what David would have done? David would have just killed him. He said, you know what, it's too late. I don't need your stuff now. I'm going to take it anyway, but I'm going to take it by force. I'm going to kill this messenger. Abigail knew this, so she went herself. Because what's the best way to stop an angry man? A lot of food and a pretty woman. That changes a man's heart real quick, you know?
Yes, it does.
And that's what David does. He sees her there and he's like, hey, you know, she's got this food. And she's like, man, and what does she say about her husband here? She says, 25, my Lord, pay no attention to the wicked man, Nabal. He is just like his name. His name is Fool. Fool. And not aluminum fool like we call it around here. I'm talking about F-O-O, fool. And folly goes with him. That's what she says about her husband. Don't pay no attention to him. He's crazy. Haven't we done that before? Had to apologize for somebody that's a relative, you know, like a brother that might have went acting fool and you don't want him to get his teeth kicked in, so you talk to the screen and say, hey man, can you just not kill my brother? You know? I mean, I love him. He's dumb. Remember we said that about somebody? He's dumb. He makes stupid decisions, and that's what she's saying. Don't kill him. You know, have some mercy on him. And plus, she's pretty too. So hey, that, you know, it's not like you sent an ugly wife out there. You know, and go, hey, I don't know about that. Oh. And that's the thing is God puts people in your life in your life for a reason. Apparently, Abigail was put in Nabal's life for this reason. You know, it all plays out. And now, so she's talking to David and she's telling him, she's like, hey David, you know, my husband's a fool, you know, and instead of going over there trying to say, you know what, you're a hypocrite, you're a king, and you're coming over here to kill my husband. No, she's smart about it. She thinks that she plays on him. She tells him how powerful he is and how dumb her husband is, and she begs for his mercy on them. And so that's what David says. You know, he's like, man, this guy would pay evil for good. I did good for him. He would pay evil. He deserves to die and kill everybody. Everybody in his family, except one. Now Abigail talks him out of it. And like I say, go back and read this. I can't get it all in this because it's 44 verses. And so it says here in 28, well, first she go back, so she talked about 26. This is what I'm talking about. She primes him up. She says, now, since the Lord has kept you from my master, from bloodshed, from avenging yourself with your own hands, as surely the Lord lives, you will live, and may your enemies and all who intend to harm me, master, be like Nabal. As let this gift which your servant has brought to the master be given to the men who follow you. Please forgive your servant's offense, for the Lord will certainly make lasting dynasty for the master because he fights the Lord's battle. See how she's pumping him up and putting the Lord out there? Because that's what we do. We try to build, and it's not lying. What she's trying to do is she's trying to build him up, and what she's trying to build him up in? The Lord. Now, do we build people up like that in the Lord? You know, we're supposed to. But a lot of times we don't. A lot of times we're jealous of people and stuff. But that's what she's doing, is by example. Now, when she gets back home, let's get down here to 32. Oh, wait, no, that's 32. It says, now David said to Abigail, please, okay, this is where he lets her go. Please be by the Lord, the God of Israel, who sent you today to meet me, may be blessed for your good judgment, for keeping me from bloodshed this day, from avenging myself in my own hands. Now, like I say, she gets back on 36. When Abigail went to Nabal, he was in the house holding a banquet like that of a king. Now, what is he being? He's being boastful. He's even celebrating. He's like, man, I can talk to David however I want. And she comes back home after what? Begging to save her husband's life. And this guy's, he's partying. He's over there partying like it's 1999, you know. And she said he was high in spirits and very drunk. See, David could have come killed his whole family. He never would even remembered it. She told him the next morning, or told him nothing until daybreak. In the morning, when the boy was sober, his wife told him all the things, and his heart failed him, became like a stone. People, the Bible study people I've been listening to, they say that more likely than saying he had a heart attack. He had a heart attack, and but this last verse I'm going to read, and this is about 10 days. Well, I'm sorry, about Nabal. About 10 days later, the Lord struck Nabal, and he died. See, that's what I'm saying. That's what happens when God does with boastful men. In the 10 days that he had a heart attack, what did he not do? What does it say in this Bible that he did not do? He didn't repent. God struck him down with a heart attack to what? To show him that you ain't all that in a biscuit. You ain't all that. You might think you got everything, but we're like every one of us. Even the homeless guy, we're all one heartbeat away from death. And that's what God showed him. He had a heart skip a beat. He had a heart attack. Oh, he should have realized, oh man, that hurt. I ain't had one, but I had some sharp pains in my chest before. That hurt. I've heard people talk about having a heart attack. They say, man, it's just like really intense chest pains drawing up, which I could imagine. I mean, I can't imagine, but I think it would really hurt. And this guy has been bragging about, this is my grain, my water, my sheep, everything, mine. And now he's laid up in bed, can't even walk. And he's laying there, and he don't pay anything to God. He don't pay any homage to God. And that's what we're supposed to do in our time. And God gave him 10 days. Maybe been 10 days more than he needed. But God gave him 10 days to do this. And now what's the whole, to me, what this chapters represent is the fact that you can go from having everything to having nothing. Not only having nothing, I lied, I said I was going to this song, we'll read, but I'm going to jump down here to 39, or not jump down to that boy. When David heard that Nabal was dead, he said, praise be to the Lord, who has upheld my cause against Nabal for treating me like contempt, or with contempt. And do you want people to say that about when they hear you died? Oh man, thank God, I'm glad that guy's dead. I mean, seriously, do you want people to say that about you when you die?
He should have stayed humble.
Huh?
He should have stayed humble.
Yeah, should stay humble. He's somebody called, what's that called? Humble pie. But he didn't. And even after he got struck down, and not only that, right here in the bottom of 39, it says, then David sent word to Abigail asking her to become his what? His wife. You talk about things turning around. Dude went from having all this and a beautiful wife to now he's in the ground with worms eating on his body. Now his wife's with David. He lost everything. And why did he lose everything? What's that nasty word that people talk about all the time? Pride.
Oh, pride.
What'd you say?
Greed.
Well, greed, pride, very much kind of mirror each other. Because you get greedy, you're proud to have that money. There's a lot of people that have money love to show it. And there's a lot of poor people that love to show it, and they in high debt.
Yeah.
Yeah. You would bow your heads. I always take this time to ask if anybody wants to come down and pray with me. If anybody's going to come and join the church or whatever it is weighing on your heart, want to be baptized.